What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one, I'm going to be talking about the one and only Tesla stock, and you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down why on Earth tomorrow is going to be an absolutely massive day for the markets for Tesla, as we have CPI coming out. So I'm going to break down how I believe this may affect the relative market, what my price prediction is for SPY after the big news comes out, and also how this may affect Tesla's share price. I'm also going to break down why Tesla did see a bit of a pop today after some major news involving Indonesia, and what you should be watching for tomorrow, as it's another massive day for Tesla and the overall market. Now, before I break anything down about CPI, what's going on with the charts, and the big news, I have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And the best part is, any could be a free Tesla share. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 5 days. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Tesla was up 3.68% for the day, which is pretty awesome, but it did end up actually slowing down as the day went on, and it actually showed not as much strength as it used to show us before. Because when you look at the hourly on SPY, notice something. SPY basically pumped a bit. It came down a little bit during the second hour, and then it just continued to rip to the upside as the day went on. It did even better than I predicted, but that's still very interesting, right? And even though SPY and even the QQQ, they ended up pushing up pretty hard throughout the day with Apple, Tesla pushed up in the beginning, and then it kind of slowed down and remained very flat as the day went on. That was very similar to what I predicted. The only thing I got wrong about its price action was this pump into the open, and I couldn't really predict that because it was based off news. And I want to note something: when I make predictions, when I make these predictions, I can't always be 100% right, because sometimes news comes out that makes TA a little bit difficult and not always accurate. But for the most part, these predictions will give you guys some good insights, and I could get things right as long as things go the right way. But why did Tesla end up getting this big gap up and a really nice pop into open before it slowed down? And that's because of this news right here about Tesla again being rumored to be near a deal to build a factory in Indonesia. And that's very interesting because I've been mentioning the fact that I predict Tesla will make an announcement about another gigafactory, especially because they have so much expectation to actually meet these high requirements and to produce more and more of these cars. I believe this is set to happen. Even though it is considered a rumor, I still believe it's set to happen and will be very big for the company. Now in 2020, Tesla was actually making very important talks with the Indonesian government, and that's because of the fact that they have very massive nickel reserves, right? And that's one of the main materials used to produce battery cells. That's very important for Tesla. So that's initially the reason why Tesla was interested in this country. And then what happened was, as time went on, there were more talks about Tesla getting ready to build a factory there, right? Spending over $5 billion. That's how much the deal is worth. To me, that's a very, very good move that they would be making. And now it's becoming more and more clear that Tesla seems more fixated on closing this deal, building another plant over there that could produce as many as 1 million cars per year. And in my opinion, this will really improve, Tesla fundamentally big time. Now, the only concern I would have about this would be the fact that this is not 100% true, at least as of right now. We don't know any of these things for sure. Reports suggest that, but we can't promise anything. But that's the reason why. I mean, if the stock is pumping off a piece of news, the pump may not be very sustainable, at least temporarily. But if this does end up coming out, I mean, it's going to be very incredible for Tesla if they actually start the Gigafactory there. And in my opinion, it's going to be very bullish news for the long term. Now, looking at Tesla, there's not really much I could tell you from the data standpoint because tomorrow we're not moving based off just data, at least for Tesla's own data, like it being oversold and stuff like that. It's going to be more about economic data, the CPI report, and other things like that. So I just want to note that so far, Tesla has been underperforming compared to SPY, compared to the overall market. The price price ratio is still relatively low. And that's because of how much this performance got beaten over the last few months because of Elon Musk selling, because of negative news, and other factors like that. Now, this could change if we start to see more and more positive pieces of news, but as of right now, it's still at this low phase. So the real question is, what is the market going to now do? Why is tomorrow so important? I'm going to talk about that in just a couple of minutes. I just wanted to break down some important things about SPY first. So I mentioned previously that this resembles a Wyckoff accumulation schematic over the last couple of weeks on SPY. This is what the schematic looks like. You guys can see we have phase A, a massive sell-off, a bit of a bounce, and then we make our bottom, which is the sell test in phase B. Very similar to how SPY had the big sell-off, a bit of a bounce, then we formed our temporary bottom. And during that time frame, I would look at the MACD, and I told you guys this is likely a bullish divergence forming, suggesting that we have an uptrend forming for SPY, and this would help the market pump up a bit. And this did actually help Tesla to some degree. And then I want to note that we basically reaccumulated here and we got a big push up. This is very similar to how we'd reaccumulate here, get this sign of strength phase before the last point of support, some consolidation, and then the last phase E pump. Now, in this case, we came down, we didn't really get much consolidation, we just pushed up pretty hard. I don't know if we already like finished phase E, this pump is done, or if we have a little bit more room yet from Wyckoff. I'm going to tell you guys what I predict based off CPI first. It looks like we might try to go for the gap fill, but once again, it depends on the data that comes out, and that will affect the entire market. So I'm going to go over some hypotheticals once I talk about some important things. CPI is coming out tomorrow, 1 hour before the market opens. The consensus would be a 6.5% CPI. That's the overall inflation rate. And remember, it's not perfect, it's a manipulated number. So you have to take it with like a grain of salt, at least to some degree. But what else is worth noting is the fact that the market accepts it as a major inflationary measure. Because the market believes that, because it affects sentiment and fundamentals in some degree, it will affect how the market reacts. Then we also have core CPI coming out. That's CPI without food and energy, which are major sectors that the Fed is not affecting. That's why it's very important. The consensus is 5.7%. CPI was 7.1% the last time it came out for the month of November. Remember, the data is delayed. The December data is just barely coming out tomorrow. They want it to be lower than what we got last time. They want core inflation to be 5.7%. The last time it came out, it was 6%. So this is what Wall Street is looking at. This is what the big banks want. Could we actually see these numbers? The data right now is suggesting that for CPI, it is very possible. And I predict that we're going to either be very close, if not below expectations, in my opinion. But for core CPI, I'm not as confident about that. I think we might just barely make it on that. And I say this because energy prices dropped pretty hard in the month of December. If you look at the US all grades, all formulations retail gas prices, on average, a gallon of gas was $3.80 in November across the entire USA. Then in December, it went down to about $3.32. So you guys could see this big decrease in gas prices between November and December that could actually play a role in CPI coming down. But Wall Street are not stupid. They know that gas alone is not everything. So I do believe that it's very possible for us to actually get a pretty decent CPI number. I think it's going to be either at expectations, maybe a little bit lower, but I'm not too sure about core CPI. That's just as important, if not more important. Okay, and I don't really know. I would like to assume that it's going to meet expectations, but we'll just have to wait and see. Energy makes up a very big sector in that, and seeing energy come down, it increases the odds of CPI meeting expectations, if not being lower. So, what this tells me is we might see CPI lower than expected and core CPI at expectations. Remember, that's 5.7% for core and I think 6.5% for CPI itself. I think this is going to likely cause a small pump in the markets. That's just my prediction. If these numbers are higher than expected, both of them, the market could crash, guys. The market could start coming down. SPY could come all the way back down to 390, back to the 380s, and start a downtrend. Tesla could come crashing down pretty hard, start filling these gaps to the downside, start crashing back down to the lower 100s. That could also happen. It's just a hypothetical. But I don't predict that's going to happen. My prediction is, let me just talk about why I believe that this uptrend is coming to an end relatively soon, and why on earth I think CPI might cause one last pump before a big rejection and a bit of a drop to the downside. That's what I think is going to happen. And if you look at the RSI and the daily chart on SPY, you are going to notice there's a bearish divergence forming. The RSI was around like 50, what was that, 56, 57, around there, maybe like almost 58, back when SPY rallied to 408. Now on the daily, it's at almost the exact same place, but SPY is at about 395, meaning that it's harder for the market to pump to these levels. The RSI is at the same place as it was back when this thing pushed up to 408, showing less strength in my opinion. Right? It's requiring much more gas to get to a lower number for SPY than it did before, which is showing some exhaustion and showing that this market's rally is not as strong as some people may think. Is it strong? Is it able to push us up? Sure, but it's not extremely strong. And we are likely, in my opinion, going to establish a lower high. I've been saying that for a while. What's a lower high? The high was 408 the last time we got this pump. We're likely going to see a high that's not as high as that, maybe a lower high around 400, maybe 398, maybe 395 is the high. Who knows, right? It's got to be somewhere around here. But I think we're going to get one last pump and a bit of a drop. And I think, this is my prediction, we're going to repeat this move. That's just my prediction. Because obviously we're forming a bearish divergence. And then if you look at what happened during the last CPI report, basically we had something very similar. CPI came in lower than expected. From my memory, I remember that. And also core was lower than expected. What did the market do? The market gapped up. We got a big push up, the final push up, a fake out rally where everyone got excited. People started talking about the Fed pivoting. Oh, the market's going to be fine. And what happened? The sellers were right there. They were ready. It was a trap. And the market started crashing. Right? The market started a downtrend. I'm not saying the market will crash hard immediately, but I do believe the trend is going to reverse very soon. I'm predicting that SPY is going to do this. Okay. And once again, my prediction, it cannot be correct, or I can't guarantee it will be correct because we don't always know. We could just start crashing from here. We could just start tanking from here. I just don't really know exactly what's going to happen. But on the daily, I mentioned, we have this resistance line. See the blue line of the descending broadening wedge? We touch this, rejected. We touch this, rejected. We touch this, rejected. Right here, rejected. And we had a fake out where it looked like we were trying to break out of it, causing people to get excited. And what did we do? We rejected and came tumbling down. It was a trap. So we might see something similar happen. I don't believe SPY is going to rally back to 408, but there is a chance, okay, that we could try to go for the gap fill around 398 or almost 398. We might see SPY do something like this. So tomorrow into open, hold on. I think that we're going to gap up. I have a feeling the data is going to be a little bit maybe better than expected, at least to some degree, but it does not mean that the market has to rally extremely hard forever. I wouldn't be surprised if CPI comes out, it's coming out right here. We gap up to maybe like 397 on SPY, maybe something like that. We start pushing up. Okay, people get excited. Oh, CPI is low. The Fed might start to pivot soon, sometime this year. Right? We start to rally. We start to rally. And we might fill the gap. We might hit maybe like 400, which is where the descending broadening resistance happened to be. I showed you guys that a couple of seconds ago. And we might reject off like 400 or so, maybe 398. And then we might start to come down to fill this gap. Remember, there was a gap up to about 398 that was open in December. I'd say we'd fill the gap during this push up. Then we start to come down and we see a big rejection just like last time. And we might slowly bleed to fill this gap. And I believe that CPI might be the thing that starts to trigger a reversal in this market. We might slowly, excuse me, we might slowly see the market respect a downtrend from here, just like this. For example, and this is all just hypothetical, but I believe something like this could quite easily happen for tomorrow, where we see the market a little bit red and we see the market gap up, push up, get rejected. It kind of has a fake out rally where people get super excited and then they trick us by reversing when people least expect it. That's very possible. And I could be completely wrong when I make this prediction, guys. I don't know what the numbers are going to be. It's just me throwing in my guess, in a way, an educated guess. For Tesla, what could this cause for Tesla? Well, on Tesla, we do have some heavy resistance around this 125 area. If we break that, we could actually get a pump to about this 128 to 130 zone. It is possible. So if I were to guess anything, if the whole market does gap up and people get excited off the CPI news, maybe, just maybe, Tesla does something very similar where it pushes up, it gaps up like this. We managed to break above the 125-ish level resistance, and then we start pushing with the market. We hit like 130. People think Tesla's about to explode, but then the sellers, the short sellers, start piling in, and we start bleeding slowly as the day goes on. And assume that this whole thing is just for one day. I know I kind of extended this, and we might slowly come back down to fill the gap, and we might slowly come back to this level, and it could trigger the reversal. This is what happened last time. Even though CPI was lower than expected, the market started to reverse and come down the same day. So there is a chance that that could be what is about to happen, because on SPY, like I mentioned, on SPY, we also have on the daily the bearish divergence suggesting that this rally is getting very close to peaking very soon. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know if it's all going to happen in one day. Maybe it takes another week. Who knows? Who knows if 395 is already the peak and the market's just going to start crashing tomorrow? That could also happen depending on the data. I don't know exactly what the data will cause or everything like that, but I do believe it's very likely that a reversal is coming in this market. The VIX on the daily, let me use the hourly on the VIX. On the VIX, you guys could quite clearly see we came very close to a key support level. That's about the 20 range. We could come a little bit lower on the VIX. I mean, the lowest I could see it going is maybe hitting 19 to fill its gap and getting a big bounce. That could also happen. Maybe the market is going to like try to rally a little bit in the very beginning. VIX comes down to 20, maybe 19, and then we get a huge reversal on VIX very soon. I believe that is going to happen. The VIX is going to make a big reversal over the next week or so, in my opinion, over the next 1 to 2 weeks. And the market will likely see a big reversal too. I do believe it's set to happen. I just don't know exactly where the top is on SPY. It could be 395, it could be 400 or 398 after the gap fill. It could be one of them. Somewhere here will most likely get a reversal, and this will most likely affect how Tesla moves. Maybe Tesla gets another pop. Maybe Tesla goes back to about 130, gets everyone excited, and then the shorts come right back in. Sellers come right back in to trap everyone. We come down to start filling the gap. Right? This is just one hypothetical. I think it's one of the most likely hypotheticals. Just like the last CPI report, which triggered the reversal in the markets, that's just a hypothetical. The market could just start crashing into open, right? Depending on the data, we could just continue to rally, right? That's also very possible. But I just think it's very likely that this is what the shorts are trying to do. They have a trap set, and we do have some indications suggesting that the market is getting ready to reverse relatively soon. How soon, I don't truly know, but it's likely going to happen based off what the data tells us. Anyways, thank you all for listening. Please have an absolutely incredible rest of the day. Also, remember, nobody could predict the market perfectly every single day. There could be unexpected events and data and pieces of news. But by using technical analysis and by actually looking at what some data could suggest, we could actually be accurate on many predictions, and it could actually help you get a better understanding of what could end up happening. So I mean this just to help you guys out. I want the best for everyone, but also be prepared for anything, because as a trader, you have to be ready. As an investor, you should be ready, and take none of this as financial advice. Thank you for listening. Have a good one. Tesla to the moon, because the long term future is still very bright. And peace out.